I volunteered in March 1940. It hadn't been on long, but I knew I wouldn't make a infantryman. I didn't want to see the colour of their eyes and everything and have to kill that way. I said, I want the artillery, that's all I thought of. And it wasn't until I got to the desert that I was made a sergeant. Our sergeant major was shot the first night by one of our own men. He wouldn't take any notice of the guards. We were on the desert road at that time. It's a good job we weren't in the sand and that. I couldn't have drove in that. And we got back to Alamein and there was a high ranker standing on his car. They got his hand up, this is as far as you go. We've got prepared positions for you and you'll be taken to them. And it was the 30-mile front, because the Qatar depression was on one side and I was the nearest gun to the Qatar depression. And we were there for about, what must have been 5 or 6 months, until Montgomery took over. We were dug in the sand, still just outside of Alexandria. And we were going to have a 3 weeks leave. I was going with the sergeants and sergeant majors to Cairo, and we were going to show what it was to go in the flesh pots of Cairo and have a marvellous time. We'd paid the part payment for the hotel. And it was on the day before that we'd got prepared, everything blancoed up and polished and done. And it was late afternoon when I came over so ill. And I got in my blankets in, and I was sweating and shivering. And someone got the orderly sergeant to come and have a look at me, and he sent for the MO, you know, the medical officer. He examined me. He said, "What have you had since you've been out here, Sergeant Brown?" Oh, I said, "Sandfly fever, dysentery." I said, "We're all covered with desert sores." He said, "Never had malaria." I said, "Dear me, no." He said, "There'll be no leave for you tomorrow." He said, it's base hospital for you." I was in my blankets and it must have been something after midnight. I was sweating, shivering. And there was a voice as loud as I'm speaking to you now said, "Whatsoever you will ask, in faith, in prayer, believing, it shall be done unto you." I got out my blankets and I looked out through my flap of the bivouac. There was nobody about. I lay down again. I thought, well, perhaps malaria does send you mad. I hadn't laid down for above a minute when the self-same words, as loud as I'm speaking to you, "Whatsoever you will ask in faith, in prayer, believing, it shall be done unto you." I got out of my blankets and I knelt on them and I cried like a child. In fact, I cried myself to sleep with my head on my kit bag, which was always our pillow. And it must have been towards 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was still kneeling on my blankets, and there was a hand came. It gripped this shoulder so powerfully that I shouted with the pain of it. I thought every bone had been broken in my shoulder, and that's what woke me. I thought, dear me, I feel all right. I don't feel there's anything wrong with me. And yet, last night, the MO said I got malaria. Heard everybody outside getting ready to go on leave, and I got myself dressed, and I went out. Who should be the first one I should meet was Sergeant Wood, the Salvationist. I said, George, can I tell you what's happened to me during the night? And I told him, as I've told you. I said, what do you make of it, George? What do I make of it? What do you think we've been praying for you for 2 years for? He said, go and see the MO. He wasn't going to examine me. I'd got malaria and all, and I was going to base hospital. So I told him of what had happened during the night. On the strength of your story, Sergeant Brownish, I'll examine you. And he looked at me. He said, well, you found a better physician than ever I can be to you. Because he said, there's no sign of malaria there. He said, get yourself ready to go on leave. Where are you going? I said, I don't know. I thought I knew where I was going. But I said, I don't know now. So I went back to Sergeant Wood and asked them where they were going. They were going to a missionary's home, a Mrs. Ross, in Cairo. And she'd love you to come with us. And it was there that I'd such a change of life. In fact, the sergeant said when I told them about it, before I went on leave, I said, poor old George, he's got religion. He's one of Monty's Bible thumpers. He's seen the light. I said, if only you knew how I feel, because I said, I'm a new person, heart and soul. Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you, so that where I am, there you may be also. Thomas said, Lord, we know not where you're going, and how can we know the way? Jesus said, I am the way, the truth and the life. No man cometh unto the Father except by me. Philip said, Lord, show us the Father, and it sufficeth us. Jesus said, Philip, have I been so long a time with you, and yet you have not known me? If you have known me, you know my Father also, because my Father and I are one.